Buenas tardes, amigos. That was cringe. Anyway, we are currently in Mexico shooting a 6-week production. Wait, what's on that lens? Oh, much better. As I was just saying, we're currently in Mexico as part of a 6-week production that will lead us to Las Vegas afterwards. And this is a pretty big job. We're shooting with cinema cameras, cine lenses, the entire Monkey Pixels crew is here. And I guess we're getting paid more for this job alone than I did in my first year doing filmmaking altogether. But my career obviously hasn't started like this. I started as a solo freelance filmmaker, not getting paid the big bucks. So in this video, I want to take a stroll down memory lane and tell you how I got my first clients, how much I charged them, and I will also tell you how Epidemic Sound, who's the sponsor of today's video, played a role in this. My name is Zeapon Cooper, and welcome to Monkey Pixels. Before I start telling you about how I got my first clients, I think I need to take it back a little further than that and tell you how I got into filmmaking in the first place. And if you watched the Story of Monkey Pixels video already, you probably already know what I did before, but for everybody else, let's just give me a brief introduction. I was a photographer first. I had my own photo studio, I did weddings, I did commercials, the whole 9 yards. But then I wanted to get into really high-end commercial photography, so I left everything in the country that I was born in and went to New York. I also took some classes at college, but as you can imagine, college in New York is pretty expensive, so I started paying my tuition playing poker. Yes, poker. And after I've done this for about 10 years, I really wanted to be creative again, because poker isn't really the most creative thing in the world. And photography didn't really get me there. So I ended up trying something else. I started a YouTube channel and started vlogging about my life as a professional poker player. And this was my very first exposure at doing video ever. At this point I realized that I do enjoy filmmaking more than I do playing poker, so I decided to go all in on filmmaking and I bought a little bit more equipment. I already had a Sony a7 II, so I bought a gimbal as well as a drone, and then I took Bell and we started doing a travel portfolio video or whatever you want to call it. This being my very first video I ever shot, aside from all the vlogs on YouTube. I did quite like it, so I posted it on Facebook and I dropped it into a WhatsApp group with all of my friends. After uploading the video to Facebook, my CrossFit coach at the time saw the video. They had a competition coming up and he asked me if I was willing to shoot a video for that competition. And well, I obviously wanted to do that. Bear in mind, I've never got paid a single penny for video production at this point, so this ended up being our very first paid video gig. And for this video, I charged 500 euros. And that was the entire budget for the entire video. Filming, editing, as well as music licensing. And I will talk about this in a minute. So that obviously wasn't a lot. But then again, it was also the very first video I got paid for ever. And we've actually gotten pretty lucky with that video. Not only did it turn out quite well for our very first video, but also it got a lot of traction because they ran a promotion and a giveaway with it, and it got over 10,000 views within the first 24 hours. Luckily for us, a guy I did CrossFit with saw the video, he liked it, and he was the CEO of an upcoming beauty clinic in Vienna. And at the point he saw the video, the beauty clinic hasn't even opened yet. And he asked us if we wanted to shoot an image video for the beauty clinic later on. This video ended up being one of our biggest videos at the time, with 2 days of production, and it also turned out great. But I will talk about this a little later, because this wasn't even the second video that we got paid for, but we also got a pretty cool client along the way from the WhatsApp group that I told you about earlier. So which client was that? In this WhatsApp group there was a friend of mine, and he was one of the best poker players in the world at the time, and he started up a couple companies, startups, crypto investment companies, a mindset coaching app, something for kids, and they needed a lot of content for their company. And since he really did like that video, he reached out to me and said like, hey, do you want to produce about 100 hours every month for our startup company? So I obviously said yes. And how much did I charge for 100 hours every month? I will tell you. So I charged 35 euros an hour for 100 hours a month. So that was 3,500 euros as fixed income. Obviously, 35 euros an hour is way too little for video production of any kind, but for us it was a good start to learn our equipment, be able to experiment and reinvest that money into new equipment. And Well, for the time being, that was actually quite alright. In hindsight, you should never charge 35 euros an hour for anything in video production, but well, we were just starting out and well, you make mistakes and you learn from it. But now, let's get back to the beauty clinic. By the time the beauty clinic opened, we already had much more experience under our belt, as well as upgraded our equipment. It was still the biggest job to date. And by the time we started shooting this, I already had hired Belle part-time for Monkey Pixels because we had so much work with the startup as well as some smaller clients that it actually made sense to hire another person. So how much did I charge for this shoot? 2 days of shooting, a lot of editing with 2 people. And we raised our prices this time, but only to 600 euros a day. So we went up from 500 to 600. So overall, I think I charged for 2 editing days as well as 2 shooting days. So all in all, we charged around 2,400 euros for the entire video, which for 2 people, way too little. It would have been too little for 1 person, but for 2 people, absolutely atrocious. But again, we learned from it later on and raised our prices, but I will be talking about this in a minute. So where's the kicker here? They were really happy with the video. As a matter of fact, the CEO's wife reached out to me afterwards and she was so happy about how everything turned out and she was so happy for her husband. The one thing they didn't like though was our choice of music. And that is a great segue to talk a little bit about how we charged for music back in the day and how we charge for music now. So as I've already mentioned, the numbers that I told you were the entire budgets for each video. So out of the 500 euros for the CrossFit gym, we still needed to find some music. And we didn't know about Epidemic Sound at the time, so we went on a site called Audio Jungle and we licensed 2 songs for this video. And they charged us around 60 euros each. So that was 120 euros out of the initial 500 euro budget. That was more than 20%. So in hindsight, it would have been way better to get a all-in-one subscription like Epidemic Sound for this one instead of charging separately for each song. And we kind of had the same problem with the beauty clinic. As I already mentioned, they really did like the video, but they didn't like the music. They came up to us and like, hey, can you use a song that has more vocals in it or maybe something that is more modern? And I just had to explain to them that, well, we don't have that because on all the music sites that I was looking for, they didn't really have any songs with great vocals or they were really expensive to license the entire thing. So that would have basically just ate up the entire budget. But then the interesting part was a year later they had some staff changes and they wanted to add a couple more doctors to their roster. So we had to recut the entire thing, and by the time we already found Epidemic Sound, because we also used Epidemic Sound for the startup and their YouTube channels, and we love the songs on Epidemic Sound because Epidemic Sound is basically the only site that I know that has a huge library of different kind of songs and tracks with vocals. I really can't tell you how much finding Epidemic Sound has changed the way of editing and dealing with music licensing and so on and so forth. Because we have 2 different kind of subscriptions when you sign up to Epidemic Sound. One is for creators like us, for this YouTube channel, for example. We pay 10 euros a month and then we can use their entire library for our own social media channels. But then they also have a commercial license and that agrees to freelancers, small production companies when you're shooting for clients like the beauty clinic, like the CrossFit gym. This works very well and you don't have to find separate songs to license for your clients because a lot of the times maybe they don't like it and then you have to relicense the entire thing, maybe find another song, and you're so much more flexible with an all-in-one subscription like the one on Epidemic Sound. And if you want to sign up to Epidemic Sound, use my link down in the description below because you get an entire month for free. Either you choose the commercial license as a freelancer for your clients or you use the personal license for your own social media channels. But sign up with my link and you get 1 month for free. So now you're probably wondering what happened afterwards. What happened to my first clients and how did I progress from then to here? I started my company in July. By November, I was completely booked out in 4 different countries. Out of the 31 days of November, we had 30 shooting days, which is absolutely insane. Part of it is obviously because we did a good job and people liked working with us, but the other honest truth was because we were way too freaking cheap. So we did have to raise our prices eventually. I think for the beauty clinic, we shot 1 more video after that for the same price. And then we had to raise our prices. So I talked to the CEO and told them that we completely miscalculated our pricing scheme in the beginning, and now we have to raise our prices by more than double. They weren't entirely happy in the beginning, but they also understood, and since they really did like our work, they agreed on it. And since then, it's one of our biggest clients. We've been shooting about 1 or 2 commercials for them for the past 4 years and a lot of social media content on the side. And we just launched their YouTube channel with at least 10 YouTube videos booked every month. So this is a client that is still with us to this day, and it's actually one of our biggest clients. As for the CrossFit gym, they reached out to us a couple of times afterwards, but our prices were just too high for them. So unfortunately, we ended up not working with them anymore, but that is also fine because you need to find clients in your price bracket, and if you outprice or outgrow your clients, then that's also fine. You're probably wondering what happened to the startup that we shot 100 hours for in the beginning. Well, it didn't work out. I think they closed shop for most of the startups, only one survived, and the guy sold that one eventually. However, the same guy who owned these startups also owns the company that we're shooting for here in Mexico and in Las Vegas later on right now. And this is the 3rd production like this for this year. And trust me, we're charging a lot more than 35 euros an hour. So overall, it still did work out, and just building business relationships everywhere and doing a great job will get you a very long way. So what are my takeaways here? Number 1 is definitely networking, because you'll never know where your next client might come from. My first clients came from my personal WhatsApp group as well as my CrossFit gym. And after that, I never had to advertise for my business ever, because people just kept recommending me. So you obviously need to do a good job, but you also need to put your work and yourself out there at all times, online as well as offline. Because whenever somebody starts a conversation and they need a guy or a girl for video, you need to be the person that they think of immediately. My number 2 takeaway is get yourself an Epidemic Sound subscription, because it made our lives so much easier when it comes to music licensing for our own channels as well as for all of our freelance work. So, I hope you liked this video and this little stroll down memory lane, and maybe you could even learn something. And if you want to see more videos like this, then give this video a thumbs up, because it really helps the channel grow. Subscribe for more, and I hope to see you on the next one. But before you tune out, make sure to follow me on Instagram to get more updates from this project here in Mexico as well as in Las Vegas. Well, I guess by the time I'm uploading this and you're watching this, I'm already in Las Vegas. So still make sure to follow me on Instagram, and then I'll see you on the next one. But I will talk about this a little later. No, I won't talk about this a little later. I will talk about this right now. This is why I'm standing here. Jeez. And they wanted to shoot us. Yes. Fucking hated your video. Went bankrupt and only one survived, and I have something in my throat.